everyone, and welcome to another episode of XX The World Tomorrow. And today I am very excited to have with us Mr. Mohammed Rushdi, who is an expert in Fintech and who has been in financial institutions, large institutions. Maybe I'll just hand it over to Mr. Rushdi to introduce himself briefly. On to you, Mr. Rushdi.
Thank you, Ahmad, for the invite. I'm very glad to be with you today. My name is Mohammed Rushdi. I've been working in financial services nearly to 30 years and Islamic banking, around 20 years in Islamic banking. I'm a CIO, I'm a financial technology expert and Chief Information Officer in majority in banking and financial services. And I'm based as well to be part of 4 Islamic banking, Islamic finance startups in the region. I'm very glad to be with you here to talk about, the future today and the future.
All right, thank you very much. And it's great to see you again. I mean, it's been some time, and I hope
that's right.
Once all these restrictions are off, we can go and meet each other. And
that's true. It's great that this race sometimes get great opportunities in a different ways. Alhamdulillah. We've been talking to meet a lot, and then now I think it comes to be virtual meeting. I'm very glad to be here today. Alhamdulillah.
All right, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. So that's first question. I'm just curious. Without going too much into the problems, the social problems and health problems with COVID, more on the economic impact of COVID. And specifically on financial institutions, right? Before we talk about fintech, what's the situation? If you could give us some broad strokes, some overview in the Middle East right now. How's the economic situation? How's the financial institutions?
I think definitely the Middle East part is getting affected with 2 things. With the COVID, of course, the lockdown, there is lots of economical activities are almost not there or down. At the same time, since most of the countries here are based on, the revenue oil is a main stream of the revenue, the oil also went down. So you have really two major impacts here for the region, for the oil prices as well as the pandemic itself, which is all related to each other as well. So both are really affecting the economy to a big extent. The only thing is that like some of the countries here, because they have a good reserve over years from the wealth and so on, they are able to cope with this pandemic and this lockdown. And I think that the biggest thing here is support the governments are giving to banks and financial institutions. There is lots of billions of dollars are being given to the banks and financial institutions to be able to cope with this pandemic and this lockdown, and support at the same time their customers, so they can just give them free period of financing, or do lots of things to ease the situation for a few months till the situation really get crystallized, and we hope we find an end to it. Other countries maybe does not have the same wealth or whatever. Maybe they depend in their own internal resources, or they seek in the Middle East as well. They seek some support from the IMF or from other country like the oil countries here in the Gulf to support them during this pandemic.
All right. Well, yeah, the oil issue, it's a big issue, and I mean, it came together at the same time, together with the COVID. So yeah, I guess, like you said, it's a double impact. Yeah. So since financial institutions in general, based on what you said and based on what I observed in Southeast Asia, not only are they getting support, but also because the situation is uncertain, and because for example, I think you mentioned some countries there's a moratorium where borrowers or companies and individuals do not need to pay their installment for some period of time. So since banks are hit in terms of their income, are they also providing less funding, less financing, approving less loans?
That is true, because see, the point now that most of the lending here happens based on the future and your credit worthiness and so on. With this uncertainties, really, even if you talk about individuals or retail normal borrowers, You don't know if this people which they are salaried, what we call it a salaried customer, will they have the job for 6 months or not? You know, we don't know. Some of the business might close. They reduce the number of employees because this is normal. You know, if there is no revenue for a long time or for some time. So this is the credit which we try to give it to individual customers. So yes, definitely, the financing is going down, even on the corporate side, because even the corporate, what we can see today, you know, like we might have a totally a new business model coming up, you know, like just let me give you an example. Today we are talking here, we are doing this webinar here from home. After the pandemic, will we need these big offices there for the big companies, you know, or the big companies might have, do have a headquarter with one, you know, big tower, or it's enough for me to have like fewer places there, or half of the place, because you know my employees will be working from home. When I have even you know rent an apartment, will I rent an apartment with a study place, let's say for example. So the business model itself might change. Today also let us look very quickly about Uber and others, you know, what you have as well in Grab and whatever in KL and other places. So maybe the business is down, although it was like one of the best models we'll talk about, really about the innovation and so on. But the business model is changing. Will this sustain in the future? Will commute more or less? So now when a bank is going to finance, you know, they have to look at all of these, you know, variables, which we never thought about it before. So, you know, I think slowing down the financing is very important, because, you know, the uncertainty is much more. And this will bring also, it will take some time till we know how is the future and how people will adjust themselves with the new business, as I said, a new business and operating model.
Yes. And moving on to fintech, has there been a response, an increase in services or usage of fintech?
See, I would say, you know, in fintech, you know, like if you talk about payment, yes, because now, you know, I think this is the right time for some of the fintech areas, the fintech segments. This is a golden time for them, I would say. Like I said, so the payment ones, which you need to do everything from home. You don't have to go to the branch. You don't have to talk to anybody. This is what's really it's doing a great here at this moment. But if you have something which is, you know, as I said, we talk about the financing. What the financing now is getting affected. Even the customer which you finance, you know, from a fintech point of view, the customer might not be able to pay today because their business is stopped, or, you know, there is some issue with it. So there's some fintech you know, lines, and even worldwide, we could see some of the big, you know, challenger banks and so on. Some of them are doing well, and the other one is not doing well because of what segments they are in. And if some of the segments really are getting a better business because the lockdown and you know, the social distances, it makes some models are very attractive, and we need it as of today, and the other we don't need it. So I think there is some part of the fintech is doing well, but on the average, or the, you know, like, I would say, or generally, the fintech should do much better, because the idea of the fintech, it's like, you know, a frictionless. What you had with banks and so on, you have lots of friction. You have to go to the bank, you have to call people, you have to do many things, you know. But now the idea of the fintech, everything from this device we are talking in mobile. So I can do everything through my mobile. I can do financing, I can do payment, everything through, you know, a fingertips. And now this is what fintech's really done. And even the KYC, even the identity, you know, verification. Now I would tell you one of the good examples here, you know, having an ID, you know, to sign contracts. Today in some of the countries we have it, but we have it still, you have one offline thing, you know, you have to put a kiosk, you have to sign. Now this is changing as well on a government level. People are changing, so they are trying to do a frictionless, you know, experience. And at the same time, what fintech really, you know, really succeeded on is have this frictionless. That's why I would say the future for fintechs and for banks, which is really adopt the fintech thinking. So this is what is the view I can see.
All right. Yeah. I mean, the same challenges that banks face, fintechs who are in the financing or the lending or the investment business will have similar challenges, because the market has changed, behavior has changed, the similar risks are there. But potentially, I mean, I'd like to believe that potentially fintechs are more nimble, and so they are more able to change the approach, or adjust their approach, or respond to what's happening in the market, right? Like, I'll give you one example. In Indonesia, we suddenly have big opportunity because the banks, the Islamic banks in Indonesia, are no longer giving as much financing as they used to. And so good projects that used to easily get funds from the banks, now they cannot, or there's something that's preventing them from getting the funds. So for example, we have one Islamic boarding school that we are funding right now. The bank already approved it, but the bank could not disburse the funds because the land office was closed and they couldn't take the collateral, right?
Yeah.
Whereas for us, we can take collateral from them from another part of Indonesia, another asset that they own, whereas the bank had to take an asset within its geography, right?
Yeah.
And so there's opportunity for us. Now, one thing I wanted to ask, that example leads on to my next question, which is that we have seen in Malaysia, regulators and government-linked entities providing additional support to crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, P2P companies. For example, equity crowdfunding companies now in Malaysia, we have a higher maximum that we can fund of 10 million ringgit. We now can have a secondary market. And then the government funds start co-investing with platforms because they believe that platforms can reach out better to the market compared to the big institutions. Now, do you see this happening in the Middle East? And if yes, how? If no, why not?
I will tell you, I could see that, I think we are a little bit lagging from crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending. And I think it started picking up, I think a few months before the pandemic. I could see there is some licensing has been given in our neighboring countries. We have some company here, one company, a major company working in UAE for peer-to-peer financing. I could see there is in Saudi, there I see few sandbox licenses were giving, and it will start really picking up from crowdfunding, from as well invoice financing. So, and I believe it seems to me this is a golden time for this crowdfunding and peer-to-peer financing. Because, the legacy which the bank is having, the regulation which the banking are having, it stops them sometimes. They have to stop and see what is the position, because, the banking is really very big and there is many elements included there or affecting the decision. But this is the start picking up in the region a few months back before the pandemic. But the support coming from the government was only mainly, I would say here, for the giving the licensing and giving the trial license or the sandbox license in some areas, or giving the license here in like what we have in UAE, and helping these companies to go. But maybe the collaboration between the government and investment companies and so on, and these crowdfunding or peer-to-peer financing, I didn't see it going much like what you are describing to me. I think this would be the way forward, because as well, you need to do lots of financing in-house, and lots of people, they like to finance in projects which they can see by their eyes as well. I think we're going to go very soon something to the agriculture, because the pandemic created something for us here, which is sometimes your supply is not coming, So what are you going to do? Some countries will start depending very much on their own, supply in some, area of the industry, like for agriculture, for example. So here, maybe the crowdfunding, peer-to-peer financing will be a very big role, because people know what they see, also what they are financing, and they could see the value coming back to them in their countries. But the collaboration, I think, with the government is coming, but here I think coming through the regulation and, helping people to be regulated and to work and to start testing their licensing. And I think it started picking up, but I hope it will carry on more during the pandemic and after the pandemic.
All right, sure. Yeah, I guess it's still in early adoption stage, so it's a bit early for the government
to Malaysia
to get.
And even with equity crowdfunding, we don't have, except I think one company has been working for a long time in the region. But I think, debt crowdfunding is there, peer-to-peer financing is there, but still in early adoption compared to what you mentioned in Southeast Asia.
All right, sure, understand. When it comes to Islamic finance, right? I mean, you've been involved in Islamic finance for a long time, and I want to have this question a little bit broader. Islamic finance in general, from social finance, zakat, waqaf, to banking, capital markets, Islamic finance in general, as a concept, as a solution for humanity. What do you think? How can Islamic finance contribute, to this situation right now, in this COVID situation? What's your views on that?
See, you said a very important word which every Islamic finance professional should take it into his mind, a solution for humanity. And this is very, very important. The Islamic banking, Islamic finance, what we have in Quran and Sunnah, it's all made to make sure that the equal distribution or a fair distribution for wealth, that the economy is really moving, is not just only making money from money, and all of this. And I think the social responsibility of Islamic finance today and the people behind Islamic finance is very, very important, because within this pandemic today, we need to finance the project to bring a return to the economy, to people, more than just like numbers. We need to focus on what is good for the country and for humanity, more than just P&A on. Yes, it's not for charity, that these companies, it is for making money, but at the same time making money and make an impact on people who are dealing with the same geography or everywhere, the Islamic finance exists. It's very important today that Islamic finance move from just only murabaha and mudaraba and go for the other modes of finance. We have seen that lots of Islamic finance, they are very much they are very much smart about the risk, and the risk always passed sometimes to the customer, and the musharaka is not there, even the crowdfunding, and we are saying peer-to-peer financing. All of these, I think the model need to change. So when the model needs to change, and we see much of these products, which really people be convinced that this is work for us. It's not only just like it does make money, it does make prosperity for people, for the economy, for everyone around us. Then you will find, the contribution is high from everyone around. People will not put their money in other banks. People will try to deal with Islamic finance much more, because see, this is a time, even we took sadaqah and zakah, this is the time which all of us try to help others, because some countries here, they have really a bad situation. Why we don't help through, zakah and sadaqah crowdfunding, or through the banks themselves, because also the banks, they have a very good reputation. Everybody knows about them. They have a good reach and they have a good customer base. Why they don't go for this mode of financing or mode of business, I would say, for getting this sadaqah and zakat to reach to other people somewhere else. So it's very important that the mode go from, I would say, the murabaha and mudaraba and ijara a little bit, to go more to the holistic Islamic finance, or as you can say, and even what we call maqasid al-sharia. This is from sharia point of view. What do we need from financing? What do we need from money? Okay, to make money, yes, for us and for our next generation, and to make prosperity for others, for people around us. So I believe that the model here needs to change. People should go back to the sharia like before. I know there are some of the banks, when they were the first Islamic bank in the world, and others in Kuwait and other places, and even the first one which happened in Egypt when before becoming a bank. The idea was, social welfare. It was beyond this one, is to get people to really enjoy their money and get other people the benefits. We need to come back to this. It's not only the numbers that I'm doing better every year, but I want to see I'm putting better for the shareholders and for the community around me. So the product itself needs to change. The Sharia perspective need to be understood as well by the consumer, by the companies, so they could see really we have only one goal, to make people or the country or the economy or the world a better place for humanity.
All right. MashaAllah. Thank you so much for that. Luckily, we're recording this so I can listen to it again.
Thank you, brother. This is what we really aim for, actually, as Muslims, as financial Islamic finance professionals.
Yes, indeed. I have two more questions for you, or maybe three more questions before we end.
Yeah, please.
One is, you have good experience working in large banks, and I see from your profile, right, on LinkedIn, you worked as chief information officer in many different banks, right? 1, 2, 3 banks.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. It's in also
GCC, yes. So and all in near positions, right? So when it comes to evolving or moving towards new things, adopting new things, and more specifically, my question is, in the West, we have seen in China and even in Indonesia today, we see how fintechs are having more and more influence and impact, even including crowdfunding and so on. And how the banks have responded initially was defensively, but eventually much more collaboratively. how do we create this collaboration between fintechs and banks in the GCC? Is it doable? Is it happening? And how?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Thank you for asking. Actually, I used to say before in many of my discussion and panel, it used to be before when the fintechs came to the zero-sum game. And I remember some of the guys said, okay, 1 year, no banks. Okay, so it was really very interesting to see some of the fintech guys in the beginning or colleagues in the industry, and they said, no, it will not be there. And then, banks said, oh, what is this fintech? What is this small company? What they are doing? And then I think we came all, after 1 or 2 years, it was very good that we can see the only model here is collaboration. Fintechs come with great ideas. They are very fast and nimble. They are able to change very fast. They are able to embrace new ideas. They are not having all the risk and compliance and the things we have in our mind as bankers, because, like any banker will think about risk and compliance before anything else. So it came to an end that, yes, fintechs will only collaborate with banks and both will complement each other. And this is start happening a year back. We could see it happening in GCC. I could see some of the banks here done great things. They have lots of fintech events, which they can, go and find the best fintech solution for capital market. They go for the finance, for payments. And I could see the collaboration started happening a year back, really. And how many of the events could see banks are doing well in here. Some of the banks, I would say, not all. Some of the big banks, when you talk about the big banks, some of these big banks really started opening their platform, like API platform. And this was a great thing from one of the big banks here in UAE, where they have their APIs, they have open banking. I said, okay, they invited all the fintechs to come and start, testing with their own systems, and see if this payment model of the fintech will help them out, if the financing model will help them out, and so on. And this is very important today, because you have to realize that you cannot do it all. I've been talking about this a lot before. In today's era and today's business environment, I can do everything is not really practical at all. You have to be more specialized and generalized. Specialization is very, very important. So we could see some of the fintechs are doing very well in area, which the banks might take few years to do. That's why I don't bring this in, and we share the profit. And so we can see, I think this happening in the region here. This maybe what we can say, you don't see it much, like maybe in the media, but I could see it started happening a year back, and I believe this is the way forward.
All right, also, it's really great to know that it's really started. How do we speed it up, you think? Is the COVID going to be an instigation for it to speed up?
No, I will tell you why no for fintechs, because as I said, fintechs is a frictionless mode of operating. So while we are talking, I can show you my product. You can even test it out. You can open your API. I can test it with you. I can show you everything while I am anywhere in the world. I don't have to be there with you. At the same time, I would say sometimes there's opportunity from the threats we are having. When the business is low, really, and the motion is a bit slow, so there is a slow motion here, then it's a very good time to try new things, because the impact will not be big in customers. You have the time, business is not really in your head, because you still have the time now. This is the right time, I would say, for big banks to work with fintechs and try their models. And then once the pandemic over, hopefully, or the new mode of business coming, then we are ready to go and put it into operation, or we can put it into operation as of today. So we shouldn't take it because of the COVID at all. I think this is an opportunity to start testing, working with different fintechs, tell people about it, because it's very important that people know that this is happening. Something very important, which is that the fintech company has to do, they have to start approaching banks, because the point, even something what I wanted to do in the fintech bazaar, is that people would like to search for a product. Then they can search for something in crowdfunding. They could see what is the company do for crowdfunding, how they can integrate, how they can do together, they work together. Because, in our region, maybe we don't have this, directory or interaction. Some colleagues in the fintech industry are trying to build this one as well. So we can bring the fintech and banks together, and the investors as well. So I think this is the right time, and this will continue. And I think the zero-sum game is gone already. It's there anymore.
All right, that's really, really good to know. All right, I have one last question for you, because we've already reached 25 minutes. This is for the viewers and the listeners. A lot of them are younger people just starting out their careers. or starting out business, or some even still studying. You know, in the Ethis demographic, majority are millennials. So what would be your best advice to young people today, given the COVID situation and the future that is very uncertain? What would be your advice?
I will tell them, learn and learn and learn. And there is one very good word said, okay, you have to learn how to learn. And I like this. I mean, I heard it from a professional from the World Economic Forum. I'm trying to.
This is good. Learn how to learn. Yeah.
Yes, I tell it to myself. I think you have to learn how to learn. It's very important today you equip yourself with the technology which will be there for tomorrow, for today and tomorrow. I think this pandemic teaches us that there is lots of things we can do while we're sitting at home, while in any place in the world, we can do lots of work. All work we can do. It's very important today that what is the technology ahead, AI, blockchain, business models, think of new business models, data. There is too many things. I'm just putting something very quick here while talking. You have to learn all of this new stuff, and you have to think about critical by yourself. And I think what we've seen today, there is no end for our imagination about how the new business model will come. I think it might be totally different from what we are doing today. All this millennial and this young boys and girls, I think this is the people which will put this future. They are very important to come with their thoughts. They are very important to learn all these new technologies, be ahead on the curve, and then I think and know the business models as well, which we have today, and what kind we have in the future with all these things happening around us. Then there will be the main, I think, driver behind it, or the catalyst behind it. So I think they have to learn how to learn. They have to learn all the things around. A great time for us to learn something not out. I could see some people they want to learn something totally different from what they are doing in their businesses. They found the time and then said, okay, let's learn something else. Why not? And then we might come with new ideas. So you have to learn how to learn. You have to learn all the new technologies, all the things which you can see that you like and you love, and you come with totally different business model. Today you are learning from school at home. Our kids, they are learning at home. Tomorrow maybe it's continue. Maybe you can even get a better business model for learning for something else. I think the sky is the limit for the next operating model or business model after the pandemic. I think we're going to see a big shift, and only this young guys and boys and girls, I think they are the one who will be behind it.
All right, that's brilliant. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, so in summary, things will change and have been changing, and the future is something that will be shaped by young people. That's why they need to have that knowledge, and they need to learn how to keep building up on the knowledge so that they can create a better future, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And of course, in that future, we will need people like yourself to continue to share your wisdom with us so we can progress together.
Thanks a lot. It's very much, I'm very happy to be part of this today and share whatever knowledge I have. I'm learning from you and from everybody around me. Thanks a lot. Very much.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate your time.
Thank you, Omar, and your team. Great. Have a good day. Stay safe. Huh?
You too. Stay safe. Assalamu alaikum.